What's happening, people? It's your girl Mina. Welcome back to my channel. You already know what it is. First and foremost, big up to everyone. Happy Friday. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. I hope you are having a wonderful evening, a wonderful night, a wonderful morning. You know how time zones and all of that stuff work out. Big up to everyone. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe. Today's stream was meant to be a bit of a more chilled one. It was meant to be a Palace preview, all of that. But of course, Erik Ten Hag dropped an interview this morning with Sky Sports and Gary Neville. So we're going to have to talk about that. We're going to talk about some rumors about Barcelona being interested in Bruno Fernandes and Manchester United possibly looking for a potential swap deal. We're going to talk about that. Talk about Manchester United's Erik Ten Hag linked to the Bayern Munich job to replace Thomas Tuchel. It's funny how that news came out when the news came out today, when the interview came out, with Sky. We're going to break down the interview with Sky because I think it gave us a bit of insight into things, but also I don't think it answered a lot of the questions that were asked. I feel like, I'm not going to say it was a lot of publicity. It was a PR kind of interview. I don't think it was a PR interview, but I do think some of the answers were not really genuine answers to what was being asked. There was a lot of emphasis about the injuries when talking about the style of play, talking about injuries. It seemed like, a lot of what the manager felt is that the idea of Frankie de Jong in the midfield, his integration into the team or buying him really held a lot of weight into how he would be able to play at Manchester United. And for me, if you got a system and it relies on one specific component in the middle, I don't think that could be a good system. But that's just my opinion. We're going to talk about all of that as well, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the Palace game. But I got a preview episode, live stream coming on Monday with a special guest, so you guys don't want to miss that. So be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to join the membership club. It's the pinned comment in the chat. You get your badges, you get your emojis, you get your custom member content as well. We are like I think we're like 9 subscribers off from 3.4k, and then it's 600 to go until the big 4k. So we'll get there in due time. Of course, let me just say this, guys. Man United can't ruin your weekend. Yeah? Manchester United cannot ruin your weekend because we are playing on Monday. That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say. Big up to everyone. Like I said, be sure to hit the like button and be sure to subscribe. Listen, we're going to go straight into it as always. I watched the interview. I did watch the interview. However, if you have not watched the interview, I encourage you to watch it. I got some little quotes here. Shout out United District and all of them guys that always post the quotes in context. I like United District and getting it from United View because they actually post the quotes verbatim. They don't kind of mess around with the quotes or anything. I watched a full interview. It's about 30 minutes long. I have a question quickly to anybody that might be familiar with YouTube and the way that it works. If I was to do a stream, because I see people doing it, but I don't know if it impacts their monetization. If you do like a watch along where I put on the screen the video and press play and we basically watch it together, do I get done for my monetization? Can I not monetize that video? If anybody knows, please let me know, because I see people doing it. There's some people that I follow, some YouTubers that I follow that do it all the time, and they do it with different types of content. They'll do it with like other people's content. They'll react live to like people's streams or people's videos. They'll react to like this interview, for example. So I just want to know, because I know you can do it on Twitch, but I'm just wondering if I could do it on YouTube, because then if I could, that would just save me so much time of having to get all the quotes together, and we could just watch the video together, pause, play, all of that kind of stuff. But if you do happen to know how YouTube works when it comes to that stuff, please let me know. But first and foremost, Erik Ten Hag was asked about Manchester United. He was asked quite a lot of stuff about injuries, about transfer windows, whether he feels like he's been backed by the ownership, whether he feels like threatened with the new ownership coming in. He talked about the players that they failed to get. He talked about the players that he was able to get. Obviously, he spoke about Harry Kane, because I've said it time and time again. Erik Ten Hag wanted Harry Kane, but we're going to come to that. I don't want to get too distracted, but we're going to go in straight with the first quote. Erik Ten Hag was talking about his, obviously, time at Manchester United so far, and the players in particular. He ain't going to do that thing where he throws players under the bus. I don't know if that's what people were expecting, but he said everyone has an opinion on Manchester United, and it can only be outstanding players, i.e., it's only the top of the top that should be playing for Man United. He said that's players who have all the skill sets. Why is that such a tongue twister? That's all the players who have all the skill set that is the physical and especially the mental skill set they need to perform and contribute, because we have to win every game. Now, I like to read between the lines sometimes, yeah, guys. I like to read between the lines. I don't know if he's saying here that the players now don't have this mental and physical skill set that you need at Manchester United, or is he alluding to the idea that United need every individual player in the team to have this sort of mindset, you know, the physical one, but the mental skill set that you need to, and maybe that can actually link to this season and how the season has kind of worked out, because, you know, with the way that United capitulate in games, we always talk about the mental side of the game. And maybe this is basically confirming, again, I might be reading a bit too much into it, and I do want to know what you guys think. Maybe Erik Ten Hag is alluding here that, you know, these players mentally do not have the skill set. Why is that such a tongue twister? Skill set. They don't have the skill set required to play for a team like Manchester United. You know, you have to be outstanding from day dot. You have to be 100% at all times. Maybe that's what he's alluding to. He then went on to say, I actually need to find a way that I should be able to just do it. Here you go. Yeah, all right, cool. We got it figured out. And then he went on to say, you know, he's talking about, this is in particular talking about Rasmus Hojlund, particularly Rasmus Hojlund. He said, we have had some choices made with talents like Rasmus Hojlund. I could see a striker who already proved it, who we want to sign, and we couldn't get him. And then we went to Rasmus because he's a talent. I remember speaking about this on stream a couple months ago, many months ago, actually. It was in reference to an Athletic article. The Athletic did a little piece on Manchester United and Rasmus Hojlund and how they actually led to signing him. And it spoke about how Erik Ten Hag wanted Harry Kane. So this has just further confirmed that he wanted Harry Kane. The ownership said no because of price tag. He didn't say that in the interview, but the article did say that, you know, the fee for Harry Kane at the time was too expensive, and they didn't feel like Tottenham and Levy would have negotiated with Manchester United. They felt like he would give them a set price, 150 million, 130 million, something like that, and it would be pay up or leave. So instead of doing that, they went to the data, you know, at this time, it was a newly developed department at Manchester United with data analysts and a head of data, etc. And they looked at all the possible statistics and data available from strikers, you know, Kolo Muani, Gonzalo Ramos. Rasmus Hojlund was one of them. And they went with Rasmus Hojlund because of the fee, because of the price tag, but also because they felt like data and statistically, he would have been the best investment long term, because that's what they were looking to do. They were trying to build a team of long-term players, not players that will come in for a year or two that we've seen in the past, but more so 3, 4, where you can get the best of 5, 6 years out of them. And Rasmus Hojlund fell into that category. Erik Ten Hag today in the interview confirmed that he wanted Harry Kane, who we wanted to sign, and we couldn't get him. And then we went on to sign Rasmus Hojlund. He spoke about Harry Kane, and, you know, this is really nothing, I would say, out of the we know this. Harry Kane will get you 30 goals. We know that. That's a fact. He then went on to say, I think Rasmus Hojlund will get there, but he needs time. It's not fair to assess him the same as Harry Kane. I would never compare two players because they are very different. Of course, because one is a seasoned professional and one is still a raw talent that's being developed. So you can't compare them. It would be very unfair. When you say they are different because of that particular thing, because of the fact that one is 30 years old and one of the best goal scorers of this time, let's be honest, in English football in the Premier League. And then one is still developing, coming from Atalanta, never scored more than 10 goals in the league. I don't think he's even hit 10 goals this season yet in the league for United. I know he's on like 14 or 15 goals in all competitions, but he hasn't hit, I think he's on 8 or 9 in the league, if I'm not wrong. Now, it's funny that money was the biggest concern when it came to signing Harry Kane, and also, I guess, the longevity of having him. We probably would have had the best of him for 3 years at the best, and that's with no injuries. But it's funny because United then went on and paid 70 million for Rasmus Hojlund, which I don't think was really a fee worth paying for him. But that's just my personal opinion. Erik Ten Hag then went on and talked about Rasmus Hojlund again. There was a bit about him in this interview, and he said, with Hojlund, I think we had the biggest potential. So this further confirms that, you know, United went for the idea of potential. They didn't go for what was a proven talent at the time. they went for the potential. He says, I think we had the biggest potential in the striker position last summer, and we are very happy with him, but he also needs time to adapt, and we are very pleased he showed his assets in scoring goals. Now, the interesting part for me here is where he talks about needing time to adapt. I might be of the minority. But I feel like if you come to United for a big fee, you shouldn't need time to adapt. You should hit the ground running. And this is applicable to anybody that's come for a big fee. Anthony, what would we class as a big fee? Casemiro, 70 million for him, 70 million for Hojlund, 100 million, for Anthony. Those kind of players should hit the ground running immediately because of not just the weight of the price tag that you have, but the fact that you're coming to Manchester United. And for Rasmus Hojlund, I think it's very unfortunate for him sometimes, because he found himself in a situation where he was coming, with the main shirt on the back. He's not wearing number 9, but he is the main number 9, with no other number 9s to rotate with him. So he's fighting, literally, not even guys, I don't even mean it like as a pun, but he is literally fighting every single game to play 90 minutes, and he has to play 90 minutes. And if he doesn't play 90 minutes, you see the big difference when United take him off or he's not been available. You see the difference of not having a striker up top. That's not Rasmus Hojlund's fault. I mean, you spent 70 million on him when I feel like United might have overpaid and could have maybe saved some money and brought 2 strikers if they had negotiated properly with him. However, that's not a fault on, I would say, Erik Ten Hag. It's not a fault on Rasmus Hojlund. It is a fault on, the people that were responsible for that. But United find themselves in this situation with Hojlund where they have to be patient. But I don't think patience is very thin right now at United, and especially with signings. I think the patience is very, very thin. I think players like Kobe, players like Garnacho, who have come through the academy, I feel like people are a lot more patient with them to get integrated into the first team, because it's not like, and the reason why I say that is because Garnacho and Kobe, and Erik Ten Hag actually speaks about them in the interview, but they came through an academy system into the first team, whereas Hojlund came from a first team to a first team. Of course, I think the pressure is a lot worse. Not worse, but I think the pressure is a lot more heavier coming from Atalanta to Manchester United in the first team. I think the pressure is a lot more heavier when it comes from coming from Atlanta to Manchester United's first team. So the pressure is always heavier, no matter where you're coming from. But the pressure is less when you're coming from academy to first team, because you're already part of the structure at the club. You already know what it's like to be around the first team. You may have trained with them once or twice before you end up being integrated into the 26-man squad. So the pressure is a lot less. However, with Rasmus Hojlund, on top of all of those factors, he's got the pressure of Manchester United picking him over Harry Kane. And that's not an Erik Ten Hag choice. I hope everybody has now seen it. I hope everyone has seen it now. That was not a Erik Ten Hag choice. Erik Ten Hag, I think, had to be on board with it and had to work with it. I don't think they would have signed him if Erik Ten Hag didn't want him, because they wouldn't waste 70 million for no reason. However, Erik Ten Hag has made it clear that it was Hojlund that he wanted. He then goes on to talk about Hojlund a bit more in detail, and said he had a very good period where he scored many goals after he showed it, but before and after he had some physical issues, which is normal for a young player coming up. He then went on to say, but it has a negative impact on the team result, and that's what you have to accept. But what does this mean in true context? In true context, what can I say that this means? I genuinely think that in the basket of Rasmus Hojlund, all the eggs is in the basket of Rasmus Hojlund working out and being a star at the team. Not a star, but living up to what they paid for, and really, like, they're putting their necks on the line for him. Now, I think if he didn't work out at the club in the next couple years, I don't think people will criticize Erik Ten Hag. I don't think people will criticize Erik Ten Hag, because I think he's accepted and he's made it clear in this interview that Harry Kane was what he wanted, and it couldn't be done. He didn't specify, by the way, why it couldn't be done. He didn't talk about, money. He didn't talk about, negotiating with Spurs. He didn't talk about any of that sort of stuff. He just said it couldn't be done. That's it. Now, this is the part for me that stood out, because, let me actually see what you lot are saying about Rasmus Hojlund. Rashford didn't get high expectations then because he's free from the academy. Rashford is a completely different situation to what I'm talking about with Garnacho and Maino. They are 1 and 2 years into their time in in the senior team is completely different. If we signed Kane, there's no way we would have signed Hojlund too. That would have been near enough to 200 million just spent. That would have been near enough to 200 million just spent on two strikers. We always overpay in the summer window, then scramble for loans in January. That's been a common theme for the last couple of years. When was the last time we actually brought a player? I think it was maybe Bruno was the last time we actually brought a player in the January transfer window that I can really remember. Big up to Red Scare Claire says, now you have to give people a chance to adjust. New leagues, new countries, new managers, new expectations, new language. They can't help the price tag. They are still human. 100% I agree. And that's why I say that's the factors that kind of contribute to Rasmus Hojlund's time at United so far, that I think a lot of people overlook. A lot of people kind of expected him to hit the ground running immediately. And like I said, because United brought him in replacement of someone like Harry Kane. Like, come on. If I had given you guys the options, Harry Kane or Rasmus Hojlund last summer, I know for a fact a lot of people would have said Harry Kane. Now, Erik Ten Hag says, he said we need time. Talking about time, which is, you know, I felt like this interview was a lot more so not him showing a different side of him, because what United tend to see on one side, what United fans tend to see, is the interviews, the press conferences, that kind of stuff, where this was a lot more into it showed a lot more of an insight into Erik Ten Hag as a coach, what he's trying to build. And I feel like it was like a pitch, like he's trying to sell something to people. He did say we need time in the interview. He said that what he's building right now, he needs time. Spent a bit of time you know, talking about injuries and all of that kind of stuff. And I tend to I don't dwell on the injuries too much, because like I said, if you know, because he spoke about something in the interview, and it really resonated with me, because that kind of summed up what Erik Ten Hag's style of football is. He spoke about the lack of left-footed players in the back line right now, especially with all the injuries and everything, and he put a lot of emphasis on that. Now, if that is one of the biggest contributing factors to the style of football that you are trying to play, then what the hell? Like, that is I'm not saying it's not important, but if that is one major factor that you are alluding that's what you're missing, on top of, you know, he spoke about Frankie de Jong, etc., you know, then I don't understand how that can be such a major part of a lot of other puzzles to the piece, if that makes sense. He said that we need time, and then he spoke about his game model. He said there is a game model here. How do you think Garnacho and Maino are able to come up? That's because it was one of my objectives from the previous leadership team to bring that in. Talking about the pathway from academy to first team. Now, Erik Ten Hag, when he did come in, it was reported that he asked for involvement across the board, across the senior team, across the academy, across the pathway from academy to first team. So I'm not surprised that he's actually mentioned this in the interview. I don't think he's fully taking credit for Maino and Garnacho, but I think he's trying to say that, you know, their come up to the first team is part of one of his objectives that he basically put into groundwork with the previous leadership team, which was a path from the academy to the first team. And it's not just Garnacho and Kobe. There has been other players coming through the academy and into the first team, whether they're playing or not. That's a different topic. But of course, he's going to talk about these two, because these two are the two faces of the academy to senior team pipeline. And I don't think he's saying he's built it, and I'm not saying that he's not saying that he's created it, but he said it was one of his objectives to be able to use the academy and create a pathway clearly for academy players to come through. Now, he then goes on to say, Garnacho and Maino bring in the levels required. You see, go back to the first point that he made at the beginning of the interview, where he was talking about the levels that's required to play for Manchester United, the skill set, the mental and the physical skill set. He said they bring in the levels that are required, but we need more from such players, because football is going very quickly. Developments are going very quickly, so you can't stand still. You have to make new improvements all the time. Now, I'm going to actually come back to this point about Kobe, because I want to find it. I don't think I put it up here, but he speaks about Casemiro and he speaks about Frankie de Jong, and he said that he thought that Casemiro and Frankie de Jong, he said that they would complement each other very well. He spoke about, you know, the pursuit for Frankie de Jong and obviously Casemiro, and that is really intriguing, because I don't know if he's suggesting that Frankie de Jong and Casemiro was the plan for the midfield, or if he's suggesting it was one or the other. I will say that my biggest question would be to him would be that if Erik Ten Hag did get his way and he got Frankie de Jong and he got Casemiro, what would that mean for Kobbie Mainoo? Let me repeat that again. If Frankie de Jong came in just like Erik Ten Hag wanted, and it seems like he's suggesting that Casemiro he wanted to, and they would have perfectly complemented each other. Barcelona, can I say, was always willing to sell Frankie de Jong. I don't think this is a thing that could be put on Erik Ten Hag or the Manchester United leadership. I don't think Frankie de Jong ever wanted to leave. He placed a lot of emphasis, heavy emphasis, on a player like Frankie de Jong and how important that is, a player like him is, to the style of football that he is trying to play or wanted to play at Manchester United. He said, I think Neville asked him like the Ajax way of playing football, and he spoke about Frankie de Jong. If one player, if your entire style of football and your philosophy of football rides on one specific player, not a profile, but a specific player, can you really deem that style of football to be a successful one? Because you take that one player out and it's virtually impossible. It's practically impossible to be able to play the style that you want because you've taken that out. And that is one of my biggest questions. And I really, really wonder, on top of that, of course, I wonder that if he had gotten what he wanted with Frankie de Jong and with Casemiro, what would that have meant for Kobbie Mainoo? What would he still have been integrated but at a slower rate into the first team? Would he have become a rotational player and not really get the first, get the first team opportunities that he's obviously been getting over the last 6 or so months? I think the idea of Frankie de Jong, and I know for a fact this summer, guys, strap in, put your seatbelts on, everybody, because there's going to be talk about Frankie de Jong to Manchester United again this summer. It happened last summer. It happened the summer before that. It's going to happen again. It's going to continue to happen, especially with, and we're going to come to it, the potential rumors or the possible rumors about Barcelona being interested in a player such as Bruno Fernandes. However, when Erik Ten Hag talks about the levels of players coming through in the academy, I really wonder what would have happened if, for example, if Anthony was such a blast and he hit the ground running and was this amazing 100 million euro right winger. What would that have meant for Garnacho? Garnacho got some time last season, especially when Ronaldo was here as well. He did get some starts, but it was more so in the Europa League. This season, he's been a lot more he's had a bigger role in the first team, starting regularly, consistently. I think he's on like 28 games in a row he started. What would that have meant for Garnacho? And that's why I feel like a lot of this could be circumstantial. And that's why I think he cannot take credit for, it's like Rashford. Louis van Gaal brought Rashford through from the academy to the first team. But if Martial had never gotten injured, what would that have meant for Rashford? Would his pathway to the first team had happened? Would it have would it have happened at a slower pace? It wouldn't have been as fast of a pace. I'm really curious to know. Of course, this is just us thinking out loud, and this is all just a bunch of if, buts, and maybes. But heavily relying on one specific player, not a specific style or a specific profile, but heavily relying on a specific player to implement the style that you want to implement and the system that you want to implement. I think that's you shooting yourself in the foot, because if you're not going to get Frankie de Jong and you end up with Casemiro, that's two different types of players. Now, I don't know if he's suggesting that he wanted both. That's obviously, I'm not too sure about that. Let me see what everyone's saying. Kobbie would have ended up with Angel Gomez. That could actually be true. Casemiro was a panic buy and will cost the club 140 million for 4 seasons. That's a lot. That's a lot. He can't take credit for players. He had no influence on their technical development. 100%. I don't think he's taking credit for their technical development. I think he's taking credit for the pathway, the academy to first team pathway that he's implemented or that he's been emphasizing on. But you guys know what it is, man. Be sure to hit the like button if you've just come through. Be sure to subscribe. Club don't plan well. and this is why it's interesting that he's spoken about you know, the ownership or the leadership. He said that, by the way, he had nothing negative to say about the ownership. He said he had nothing negative to say about the leadership as well. However, what I will say is that he's not going to come out and bash them like in an interview. I don't know what people were expecting, but he's not going to come out and he's not going to bash them immediately. Big up to Saeed with the raid. He's not going to come out and bash them immediately because, you know, he's already worked with the old leadership and now he's trying to impress the new leadership. So he ain't going to come out and criticize them. He ain't going to say negative stuff about them. He did speak about, you know, goalkeepers. He spoke about his style of football, which again, interesting to me, some of the stuff that he said. Big up to Akash with the super chat, says Erik Ten Hag wanted both Casemiro and Frankie de Jong. Mega pricey though. It would have cost a lot. But you know, that's what negotiators are there to do. They're there to negotiate. They're literally like, that's what their job is. We talk about Erik Ten Hag and his job is to coach. Negotiators at Manchester United are there to negotiate. That's what they do. But United have taken shortcuts for far too long, which has actually shot them in the foot. So now they're going to have to, Ineos are here, they're tasked with a job to change that. Every club that they approach, they have to show them that it's a new leadership. It's a new negotiating style that's coming to the table. It's not going to be the old likes. Like Edwin van der Sar even spoke about Ajax when he said basically he knew that United will pay whatever they wanted for Anthony. So he just held out. They held out until, you know, 100 million price tag. We're not budging. You lot are going to pay that. Couple weeks passed. United are panicking. They came through with it. They knew. And now Ineos are tasked with that job, which is why I think the next maybe summer transfer window, this one in particular, this summer transfer window is going to be one that's going to be, we got to be patient. That's what I'm going to say. We have to be patient with the summer transfer window because United might not be able to approach all the type of players that they want to without getting hit with what the old leadership would have got hit with. And they, at that time, would have paid it. We paid how much for Maguire? We paid how much for Lukaku? We paid how much for Paul Pogba? We paid how much for Anthony? We paid how much for Di Maria? Like, United have shown in the past that they will pay these big price tags. But now, this new ownership are tasked with a very interesting job. Now, Ten Hag spoke about Onana. He spoke about his goalkeeper and all of that. He said, this year, we wanted to make the next step. We brought in a goalkeeper who can play out from the back, a dynamic midfielder in Mason Mount, who has been injured all season, and a goal scorer in Hojlund, who is young and needed the time. I feel like this is just him just trying to say, listen, we've built on what we started last season. We've built on it this summer. We've brought in, you know, the players. We brought in a goalkeeper who can play out from the back, a dynamic midfielder in Mason Mount who has been injured all season. I don't think it's a surprise that he's been injured all season. I think we all would have, based on his injury record last year, I don't think there's no one in this world that wouldn't have predicted that this possibly could have happened. Like, there is nobody in this world that could have possibly predicted that this would not happen because of the, you know, when a player has a substantial number of injuries, they don't just make a comeback immediately because they've gone to a new club, especially when that said club is having their own little injury crisis as well. Like I said, Erik Ten Hag spoke about the leadership. He said, excuse me, I have felt the backing from both leadership teams at Manchester United, despite the fact that he's telling us to give him time. He said he feels like he's reassured. He definitely feels like he's reassured with the leadership. And then he spoke about the way that United are playing this season. And he said, I have to defend the team against some unfairness in recent press conferences. We can accept this. We know the standards. And in the first place, we are not happy with the season, but we know we can win a cup this season. So stay positive. That is his message to the fans. That is his message to the critics. That is his messages to the media. He's saying to the media, you lot are unfairly speaking about my players, but to the fans, stay positive because we can win a cup. Now, I don't think a cup would change what the trajectory of this season has been, because the FA Cup is what United joining in the third round. So you got the third round, the fourth round, quarters, semi. That's 5 games. 5 games does not change the view or the outlook of what Manchester United's season has been. And I think maybe that's where this seems a bit, the interview seems a bit tone deaf, because there's no real acceptance to what has gone wrong this season. Everything is to blame on injury. Gary Neville pressed a little bit at it, But I wish he pressed a bit more, because he spoke about Casemiro being left to fend for himself in the midfield and all the gaps of space in the way that United have been playing. And then Erik Ten Hag went on to speak about the injuries in the back line. And I wish that Gary Neville really pressed on that a little bit more. That would have been, for me, I would have liked that. I would have liked for him to press on that a bit more, and demand the answer, because I felt like there's not really any real criticism upon the style that's been played this season and the way that United have been playing this season, without everything being linked to injuries. Everything has been linked to injuries. And it's quite annoying, because it's like sometimes if you know you're in the wrong for something, guys, you can say you're not in the wrong at all. You can be like, you can say I'm not in the wrong, but I might have done this wrong, or I might have done that wrong. But it seems like that never happens, and we never really get to hear that from Erik Ten Hag, especially in this interview in particular. Now, I feel like this interview is more like rallying support for the next couple of weeks. They've got an interview coming out on that overlap, I think, ahead of the FA Cup final with Andre Onana. So that will be interesting. Gary Neville posted, I think it was like a teaser to it today. So that will be interesting, that Andre Onana is the one that's doing the interviews ahead of the FA Cup final, especially based on the kind of season that he's had as well. But this interview, for me, I don't want to say it's a PR piece, because it's kind of rude to say it's a PR piece, but I do feel like this is more to gain momentum and gain support for the last couple of games of the season. And it's not really giving you answers to what has gone wrong this year. It's not giving you answers. We know injuries have hindered a lot of Manchester United's performances this year. But what about the other factors? What about the other factors? What about, the players that have not been performing well? What is the excuse for that? Because that can't be injuries. It can't be injuries for that. What is the excuse for the midfield that has been an issue since the first game of the season against Wolves? It's not the injuries to the back line that's causing that open space in the midfield. I really wish that, it was a bit more pressing. I wish the questions were a bit more pressing. Big up to Ahmed, newest member. Welcome to the community. Big up. I appreciate it. Welcome. Be sure to smash the like button, guys. If you want to join the membership club, just like Ahmed did, you can. It's the pinned comment in the chat. You get your badges, you get your emojis, you get your custom member content, and of course, you get to support the growth of the channel. Be sure to subscribe. We ain't too far off from, I think, like 3.4k. Then after that, we get to 3.5k. Eventually, we'll get to 4k in due time. A lot of content coming across the weekend and the bank holiday if you're here in the UK. Got a special stream coming on Monday. Got a special preview episode next week ahead of Manchester United versus Arsenal. So you definitely do not want to miss that as well. So be sure to turn on your post notifications. So when I go live or I post a video, you will get notified. You can follow me on all platforms as well. Links below in the video of this. Erik Ten Hag went and spoke about, obviously, the FA Cup. And this is just him. This is just Erik Ten Hag. This is, for me, just Erik Ten Hag just in general. He said, Manchester United didn't play so often twice in 2 years in an Emirates FA Cup final, and especially not in the last 10 years. For this group of players, it's a great opportunity that we need to take. Just accept. Like, he's always trying to dunk on previous Manchester United teams. It's true. I'm sure Manchester United maybe they've played at Wembley twice in a row. Maybe it's not in the FA Cup final twice in a row, but definitely I know in the last 10 years they haven't done that. I think this is the silver lining for him just in this season, that this is proof that something is working. Something is working. If you're getting to 2 cup finals, something's working. Everything else might not be working, but there is some ingredients that are working for the project, for the system. And like I said, he's already said it, we need time. I understand with Erik Ten Hag, the funny thing is that I understand that you come into a new team. Like, you look at Ange Postecoglou right now, I'm seeing Spurs fans saying they want him out. Spurs fan, it's been how many months? It ain't been 6 months, but it's been, I think, 6 months of them not playing amazing. And it's only been his first season. And they are already calling for his head. They are already saying they want him to leave. They want him out of the club. And for me, that's just wild, because firstly, you're Spurs. But secondly, at least give the guy a season. But that's quite sharp coming from someone like me, because, Erik Ten Hag is in his second year of his project and I ain't too convinced on it. But sometimes I do feel like you don't need to ride out the entirety of your contract to understand whether the project is going to work or not. I genuinely think like today's interview put a lot into perspective about what Erik Ten Hag. It didn't put much into perspective for us in terms of what Erik Ten Hag is trying to build. There was no reassurance of, the specific style of football that United want to play. He was asked about, Gary Neville asked him, have you considered this season playing more defensive? And he said no, because we have to play proactive. Okay, cool. But you've then sat there and said you don't have the ingredients and the minerals and the players and the players don't have the mindset to play the way that you want to. So there's no real harm in reverting back to square one until you have what you need, because you've sat there and placed emphasis on a player like Frankie de Jong. You've said that he's important for the system that you're trying to build and the style that you want to play. And when United failed to get him for 2 windows, I don't know how you move. And maybe this is a criticism to the recruitment team. Maybe this is a criticism to the leadership team that were there with him. I don't know how you go from wanting Frankie de Jong to ending up with Casemiro and Mason Mount. That is completely different. That is completely different profiles, different positions. That's Mason Mount. What you're getting in Mason Mount and what you're getting in Casemiro is not what you're getting in Frankie de Jong. So I don't know if that was their second options or third options. To me, till today, I'll be real, that really, really doesn't make sense. But another thing that doesn't make sense, and you know what, you lot might not actually agree with me on this. Another thing that does not make sense to me is this. Barcelona reportedly interested in Bruno Fernandes. Doesn't make sense. Firstly, where are they getting the money from? First and foremost, where on earth is Barcelona getting money from to buy Bruno Fernandes? After, for the last 2 years, you have caused us issues in the transfer window when United were interested in Frankie de Jong. Now they think that a possibility of a swap deal could be on the cards. Now, this is a question to everyone in the chat. Yes or no? Are you taking this? And it's not a direct swap. I think it's money as well. But it's suggested, it is confirmed that Barcelona are definitely interested in Bruno Fernandes and maybe sending Frankie de Jong in the other direction. Would this be of interest for fans? I genuinely want to know, because I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. I look at this and I'm like, I don't know if it's worth losing Bruno Fernandes for Frankie de Jong, and also by the way, helping them out with their financial issues, with their financial levers and all of that nonsense that they have going wrong. If Frankie de Jong genuinely wanted to come to United, he would have came in Erik Ten Hag's first transfer window. I fully wholeheartedly believe this guy does not want to come to Manchester United, and we are forcing him. Erik Ten Hag is trying to force him. They're saying he's Erik Ten Hag's son. They're trying to force him to come to Manchester United. The guy had the option to come in the first summer when I remember David Ornstein posted saying United and Barcelona agreed terms and all that was left personal terms, and they couldn't agree that. Frankie de Jong does not want to come to Manchester United, and far gone are the days where players who do not want to come to Manchester United come to Manchester United. We need to let that go. We need to let that go. Frankie de Jong, by the way, I think he's an amazing player. He's a baller. But I just don't know if he wants to come. And do you really want him to come where you're not sure if he wants to come to the club? And then every game, everyone's assessing his body language, or they're reading his body. Oh, what's going on here? What's going on? Like, come on, guys. Let's be for real. I don't know, man. The idea of him at Manchester United does seem very far-fetched. I'm not surprised that people told me big clubs wouldn't want Bruno, and it's not because of that I'm not buying this. I just don't think him at Barcelona makes sense. I don't know. I just feel like it doesn't make sense. I always imagine Bruno, not gonna lie, I imagine him to stay at United for a few more years. Generally, that's just my personal opinion. Let me see what you lot are saying. If Frankie coming for Europa League football or something, that's a good question, because we're literally going to be in Europa. We are literally going to be in Europa. Donny texted Frankie and told him the club is in shambles. Bruno's biggest plus is that he doesn't get injured. That's a big selling point. Yeah, that is a big selling point. Yeah, of course, Mina, come on, what are we doing? He's clear of Bruno. Bruno will cook in La Liga. Can they take Anthony too for free? Don't need any more of him at all. Anthony wouldn't even play at Barcelona. he wouldn't even play. Jong will come here and be injury prone. He'll come and just suddenly have a bunch of injuries. Now, this is obviously just paper talk. This is the recent news or recent speculation, just like the speculation about Erik Ten Hag and the Bayern Munich job. Now, what's the possibility of Erik Ten Hag going to Bayern Munich and Thomas Tuchel coming to Manchester United? Basically just swapping managers. Of course, now United wouldn't have to pay a fee, I think, for Thomas Tuchel because he's leaving. His contract's being terminated when he leaves. But what is, genuinely, guys, what is the possibility? Do you not see it realistically possibly happening? Thomas Tuchel leaving Bayern Munich to come to United and Erik Ten Hag going to Bayern Munich and leaving Manchester United. Now, again, this is just rumors. This is just speculation that Bayern Munich are interested in Erik Ten Hag. Of course, they've been rejected by Nagelsmann. They've been rejected by Xabi Alonso. They've been now rejected by Ralf Rangnick. And now they're really clutching at straws at the idea of who's going to be the next manager because they don't know. They don't know. I don't see Erik Ten Hag going to Bayern Munich personally. I don't know how his style of football would be at Bayern Munich, if I'm being honest. But also, I do think Erik Ten Hag might play it safe if he loses his job at Manchester United. I think he'll play it safe and go back to Ajax. Of course, I have said many times that, you know, if he leaves Manchester United, he needs to go to another, no disrespect to Ajax, but he needs to go to another big club just to prove that he can do it at a big club and that Manchester United was just, you know, it was not like a one size fits all. He needs to show that he can do what he did at Ajax at another major team, whether it's a Bayern Munich, whether it's, I don't know, Inter Milan, them kind of teams. He has to go and do that because that's the only way people are going to buy this idea and this ideology that Erik Ten Hag is a phenomenal and a great manager. Him at Bayern Munich, I don't know how it works out. Genuinely, I can't imagine Bayern Munich just over the last couple of years playing a style of football that Erik Ten Hag would play. I just can't see that. But that's just my personal opinion. Maybe he might, like, I've compared it to Unai Emery before, and you lot nearly cooked me that day. I wasn't saying him and Unai Emery are the same in terms of philosophy. I was saying that Unai Emery didn't work at Arsenal, but since then he's gone to Villarreal, has had success there. He's at Villa right now, could finish top 4 with them. He's shown that, you know, when there's not huge amounts of pressure, because the pressure at Arsenal and Manchester United is different to when you're at Villarreal and Villa, and maybe even I would go as far to say Ajax. The pressure is different. Unai Emery has shown that he can do it and that he can implement what he needs to implement. I mean, the Aston Villa team right now, there's a few new people that Unai Emery signed, but a lot of them were under Gerrard in the past. They were under Gerrard when he was horrible. So it is clear that he can implement his philosophy and his style of football. Is Erik Ten Hag like that? Is Erik Ten Hag in the caliber of Unai Emery type managers, where at major clubs, maybe it's not going to work out, but maybe at the clubs where there's less demand and less pressure, there's demand but less pressure, maybe he might be able to do something. And that's why I think a team like Ajax kind of makes sense for him. You know, Bayern Munich, not so much. Just before we wrap it up quickly, the most recent news is that Manchester United will cover Dan Ashworth's arbitration costs in the Newcastle dispute, meaning they're going to pay his legal fees. United are willing to pay his legal fees as he's taken Newcastle to court, as he was placed on gardening leave back in February, and now they're trying to still negotiate the compensation package. I don't know if this is to fasten the move, but Manchester United have accepted that Dan Ashworth will not be coming in before the summer. They've accepted that, which is why you know, it's good that they've got Ahmad Barada in. It's good that they got Jason Wilcox in. They just need that final piece of their puzzle for the big three, as I like to call it, the big three. Now, this is just interesting to me that United are willing to do that, because they're not willing to pay a big compensation package to Newcastle, but they're willing to pay his legal fees. That says a lot. United are playing petty. United are being very petty right now. They're telling Newcastle, we got the money to spend, but instead of giving it to you, we're going to give it to pay for Dan Ashworth's legal costs. We ain't putting it in your pockets. We're not lining your pockets with 20 million. I think the package that they've asked for is around 20 million. You can get a flipping left back. You can get flipping. We brought Tyrell Malacia for less. I mean, of course, yeah, it's not really worked out so far. But we bought Tyrell Malacia for less, and they are asking that for Dan Ashworth, which to me, I hope United continue this, because you know what, if it goes down the legal route and say they pay a couple million for his legal fees, and it gets settled in court, and you know he gets to dispute his gardening leave and he gets to leave, that means United would eventually could pay nothing. United could pay nothing for them, for Dan Ashworth, except for the legal fees. So it could actually, this holding out for the 20 million could come back to bite them in the arse, excuse my language, but it could really come back and bite Newcastle. Interesting to see how it works out. I will keep a close eye on it. But before we quickly wrap it up, guys, ahead of the game on Monday, I'm just going to do a quick prediction. Everyone in the chat, I want to know your thoughts, what your predictions are for the game. Of course, like I said, there will be a stream on Monday, I think at 1 o'clock UK time. Got a special guest on that one where we're going to chop it up and talk about a lot of stuff. We're going to talk about Erik Ten Hag, we're going to talk about Bruno, Sancho, Rashford, we're going to talk about the Palace game, the rest of the season, all of that sort of stuff. But predictions for the Palace game, I'm going to say it's going to be a difficult one. It's going to be a 1-1 or a 2-1. United are going to win 2-1 or draw 1-1. I still have PTSD from last year's game. I think it was at Palace away when Elise scored. I think it was when Elise scored. Yeah, he scored that free kick, I think. And Casemiro got booked and ended up missing the game after, which was Arsenal, I think. I might be wrong, but if I remember correctly, that was the game at Palace last year. And that's really where, you know, the cracks were starting to show. The cracks were really starting to show. We will lose. Palace are in good form. 3-1 Palace. I think a lot of people are expecting United to lose. And that's where the question of where does United's next 3 points come from? Genuinely, I don't know. I genuinely do not know where United's next 3 points will come from. We just got to wish. We got to pray. We got to hope for the best. You know what they say? Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. But on a positive note, United cannot ruin your weekend, because United play on Monday. So you can enjoy your Saturday. You can enjoy your Sunday. You just got to worry about the game on Monday. Enjoy it. Guys, if the weather's nice this weekend, go out and enjoy it. I really hope it is actually nice. But if the weather's nice, go out and enjoy the weather. It's as simple as that, man. Big up to everyone. Be sure to hit the like button, guys, on your way out. If you've just come through and you forgot to hit the like button, it really helps with the algorithm and all of that. Be sure to subscribe if you've just come through as well. Big up to everyone who joined membership club, sent in super chats, stuck around for the chat. Should I be back tomorrow? I might be, I might not. I don't know. Weekends, it's always hard to predict. Saturdays are normally family days, man. You guys know what it is. I hope you have a wonderful Friday evening, guys. Hit the like button on your way out. Come on, United. I'm back on Sunday. Sunday, I'll definitely be here for a women's vibe along. Manchester United women versus Liverpool. Second to last game before the end of the season. So I will be here and I hope to see some of you lot as well. Hit the like button on your way out. I'm out, guys. Peace.